Chapter 18 of Bill the Conqueror by P.G. Wodehouse. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Black Monday. To many people in this age of rush and hurry, indeed one might say to most people, the early hours of Monday morning are the worst of the week, for it is then that the soul, enfeebled by the soft ease of Saturday afternoon and Sunday, winces painfully from the thought of resuming the white man's burden and going to work again. Mr. Wilfrid Slingsby, as he sat at breakfast in his house in Bruton Street on the morning after Bill's dinner with Miss Stryker, experienced nothing of this Monday feeling. Everything seemed to him for the best, in the best of all possible worlds. His eye was bright and his mind at peace as he ate his kidneys on toast and read the pile of morning papers heaped beside his plate. Most men are content with a single newspaper to help them through breakfast. Certain Sybarites read two. Mr. Slingsby's pile contained every journal published in London. Not a single sheet, however humble, was unrepresented in that mountain of literature. But his reading was that of a specialist. A glance at each periodical was enough for him before he threw it on the floor. Only one section of these papers interested him, that devoted to theatrical reviews. The previous Saturday night had seen the opening of a new and sprightly farce, Tell It to Papa, at the Bijou Theatre, and this had the distinction of being the first theatrical venture for which Mr. Slingsby had assumed sole financial responsibility, and it seemed from the papers to-day, as it had seemed from the Sunday papers yesterday, that he had stumbled upon a gold mine. Mr. Slingsby finished the last review and leaned back in his chair, a happy man. It is the dream of all those alchemists who dabble in theatrical ventures to discover one day the philosopher's stone, to produce a historic farce, one of those farces which flare over the horizon about once in every 20 years, and after a record-breaking career in London go on running forever in the provinces. And this dream, judging from the criticisms of the press, taken in conjunction with the enthusiasm of the first night audience, Mr. Slingsby seemed to have achieved. He finished his breakfast, smoked a leisurely cigar, and rang for his car to take him down to the city. Complete happiness was Mr. Slingsby's. No thought of any Damocles' sword suspended above his head came to mar his joy. From this day forward he was on velvet. He could abandon his commercial career and live the life of a leisured gentleman, confining his activities to smoking big cigars and telling dramatists that their second acts needed a lot of work done on them. As the car stopped outside his office building, his heart was leaping high. Larks did not actually sing in the sky above St. Mary Axe, but to Mr. Slingsby they seemed to be singing. So exalted was his mood that he beamed upon Henry the office-boy like a father, and was in two minds about giving him half a crown. "Gentleman waiting to see you, sir," said Henry. "Gentleman, eh?" said Mr. Slingsby, almost adding tra-la-la. "Where is he?" "I showed him into your office, sir." "Quite right," chanted Mr. Slingsby, just managing to check his right foot from executing a dance step. "Any name?" "Mr. West, sir." "Mr. West, eh? Ah, Mr. West. Yes, yes." He curvetted into the private office. "Ah, West," said Mr. Slingsby jovially, while the air seemed to echo with the clash of cymbals and the note of flutes. "Hope I haven't kept you waiting." He had kept him waiting, but Bill did not mind that. Bill had come early and intended to stay late. "Good morning," he said frigidly. He wanted no friendly overtures from this blue-chinned man. He was about to execute the spiritual equivalent of hitting Mr. Slingsby over the head with a hatchet, and he resented the other's ebullient chumminess. "Sit down. Make yourself comfortable. "Have a cigar," said Mr. Slingsby. Bill sat down, but waved away the proffered Corona. He waved it away with much the same cold aloofness which an executioner might have exhibited towards a cigar-case extended by a prisoner at the block. He was feeling like an executioner. The conversation which he had had at Mario's with Miss Stryker had made it plain to him that Mr. Slingsby had indeed revealed to that lady the location of the body's interment, and the body was one of such magnitude that he marvelled at any man, even when a good bit tanked and under the weakening influence of love, confiding such a secret to anybody. "I came here this morning," he began. "You weren't by any chance at the opening of Tell It to Papa at the Bijou on Saturday, were you?" interrupted Mr. Slingsby. "No," said Bill. "A riot, my dear fellow!" cried Mr. Slingsby. "A positive knock-out. Not a single paper, either yesterday or this morning, that doesn't rave its head off. It's the first show I have ever owned outright, and it's the biggest winner since Charlie's Aunt. In fact, between ourselves, I shouldn't be surprised if it doesn't make even more money. Costs nothing to run, 3 acts with only 1 set, an ordinary interior, and looks like playing to capacity for a couple of years. It's a funny thing the way people let these gold mines slip away from them. I know for a certain fact that at least 6 managers turned it down cold. It was quite by accident that it came my way. But I know a good play when I see one, and the moment I read the first act— I may as well tell you right away," said Bill. "I knew I was on to a winner. Even then, of course, I didn't know how big it really was, but I knew it couldn't fail. There's one scene where the fellow loses his trousers." The mere accident of Mr. Slingsby pausing at this moment to relight his cigar enabled Bill to escape hearing the entire plot of Tell It to Papa, and to jerk the conversation back onto a business plane. He had an uncomfortable sense of being bustled and hurried as he began to speak, and this made it difficult for him to be as impressive as he could have wished. But he relied on the subject matter of his discourse to grip his audience. "I dined last night with Miss Prudence Stryker," he said, feeling that this was a statement which, if anything could, would divert Mr. Slingsby's mind from the humours of Tell It to Papa. His confidence was justified. Mr. Slingsby let his cigar go out again and stared fixedly across the desk. Mr. Slingsby did not actually say, "Proceed. Your narrative interests me strangely," but the mere fact of his silence was enough to convince Bill that his attention was arrested. "And I may as well tell you," proceeded Bill severely, "that I know exactly what you've been up to." There was a weakness about the phrase which he did not like, but he had only just stopped himself saying, "I know all." "Ah?" said Mr. Slingsby. There was nothing tremulous about the hand that struck the match that lighted his cigar for the 3rd time, nor did his voice express undue emotion, but his dark eyes were gleaming. "What do you know?" "I know that you are Higgins and Bennet." "Higgins and Bennet?" murmured Mr. Slingsby, bewildered. "Higgins and Bennet?" Bill had no patience with this childish attempt to evade the issue. "Yes, Higgins and Bennet," he repeated, "the mysterious firm that has been buying up all Uncle Cooley's wood pulp at the smallest possible prices. It was a nice, simple, ingenious trick, wasn't it? You get the job of London manager to Uncle Cooley, and then you start a firm under another name and sell all the stuff to yourself and sell it again to other firms at a handsome profit. I don't wonder you can afford to put on your Tell Fathers." "Not Tell Father, Tell It to Papa. Much better title," corrected Mr. Slingsby. "Never mind that," said Bill sternly. "But it makes a difference," urged Mr. Slingsby. "You'd be surprised how many good shows have been killed by bad titles. You can see it for yourself if you think a minute. Tell it to Papa. It rolls off the tongue. It looks well on the billing. I didn't come here to discuss the titles of plays," said Bill. "What I want to know is what you intend to do about it." Mr. Slingsby's black eyebrows rose. "Do about it?" he said. "My dear fellow, what is there to do about it? There was always the chance of the thing coming out one of these days, and now apparently it has happened. You haven't got anything remotely resembling evidence as yet, of course, but unfortunately that doesn't matter. Now that you are on the track, you won't have any difficulty in getting evidence. I must clear out. That's plain enough. No argument about that." Bill was oppressed with a feeling that the scene was going all wrong. Even in this moment of his triumph, the other's personality was too strong for him, hardly in a less degree than on that other occasion when the blue-chinned one had trampled all over him at the luncheon-table. He felt himself a weak-kneed, diffident inferior. With an effort he forced himself to a spurt of truculence, sadly aware the while that it was not going to amount to anything. The second mate of a tramp steamer, or one of Miss Ethel M. Dell's more virile heroes, might have attempted truculence with Mr. Slingsby and got away with it, but Bill, even as he spoke, knew that he was not the man to do it. He did not even bother to bang the desk. "Clear out?" he said, in what he tried to make a hard and intimidating voice. It sounded to him like an apologetic bleat. "Suppose I have you arrested?" Mr. Slingsby looked at him with a pained incredulity. This, Mr. Slingsby seemed to think, judging from his expression, was simply asinine, mere babble from the sick-bed. "Have me arrested?" he said. "Talk sense. You don't suppose your uncle is going to thank you for making a public exposure of this business and getting him laughed at by everybody? He will be only too glad to have the whole thing hushed up." He eyed Bill as if he expected him to apologize, and such was his magnetism that Bill very nearly did. Mr. Slingsby summed up. "Never," he said severely, "go into a thing of this sort unless you are prepared to have it slip up on you at a moment's notice." Bill just contrived to check himself from saying he wouldn't. "I had the sense to make all my preparations long ago. My money is invested in South American securities, and I shall take the next boat to Buenos Aires." He paused. "No," he went on, "I shall go to New York first and arrange for the production of Tell It to Papa. Tell me," he said, shelving the more trivial matter of his criminality, "you have lived in New York for a number of years. Who would you say was the best manager to go in with on the production of a nice clean farce with only one interior set for the 3 acts? It doesn't need money spent on it. The thing takes care of itself. All I need is an honest man." Bill, routed and discomfited, rallied for a brief counter-attack. "What do you want with an honest man?" he said bitterly. Mr. Slingsby was not to be jarred out of his geniality. "There's no need to be personal," he chided gently. "No need for any hard feelings. I'm the one who ought to be grumbling. You've spoiled as nice a little income for me as ever a man had. Fortunately, I can get on without it. Tell It to Papa is all I shall want for the rest of my life. You have no cause to be nasty. You have done pretty well for yourself. Old Paradine ought to come down handsome when you tell him. Besides, you've learned a very valuable lesson, one that ought to be a great help to you in your future life. Never," said Mr. Slingsby, and would have laid his hand on Bill's shoulder if the latter had not drawn coldly back, "never tell your business secrets to anybody. Anybody, mind. And, above all, never give yourself away in an effort to impress a girl with your smartness. It doesn't pay. In fact, better keep away from girls altogether. They're tricky propositions. No sense of honesty, nothing fair and square about them. How was Prudence? Asked Mr. Slingsby chattily. Bill found himself saying that Miss Stryker had seemed pretty well. Quite a nice girl in her way, said Mr. Slingsby tolerantly. Beast of a temper, and inclined to be deceitful, but quite a good sort on the whole. I think I shall be able to give her the part of the maid in one of the touring companies of Tell It to Papa. And now, my dear fellow," he said, making a little rustle of dismissal among the papers on his desk, "I'm afraid I shall have to ask you to be going. I have a lot of cleaning up to do before I leave. By the way, it would be most kind of you if you didn't say anything about this little matter to your uncle before I sail. I shall be able to get Wednesday's boat. I should appreciate it extremely if you would postpone telling him till I've gone. There's just an outside chance that if I were actually ready to hand, so to speak, he might take it into his head to be vindictive. Better not tell him till I've gone, eh? What do you think?" "All right," said Bill. He had no notion why he said it, except that it was the only thing that he felt he could possibly say. "Capital!" said Mr. Slingsby, his excellent teeth gleaming in a delightful smile. "Well, good-bye, my dear fellow. I hope we shall meet again one of these days. Oh, before you go," he scribbled on a card, "take this," he said. "Give it to the house manager at the Bijou, and he'll fix you up with a couple of seats any night you want. Better, perhaps, not make it a Saturday. I know you'll like the show. Best second act that's ever been put on the stage." It was not till late in the afternoon that Bill returned to Marmont Mansions. The necessity of stopping dazedly at intervals rendered his progress westward slow, and by the time the lunch hour arrived he had not gone beyond the Strand. He turned into a quiet restaurant, and the effect of the meal was so curative that he emerged again in a state of cheerfulness almost rivaling that of Mr. Slingsby. He perceived that the impact of the other's powerful personality had led him to ignore the really vital fact. Whether Wilfrid Slingsby was crushed or defiant was immaterial. Whether he stayed in or out of jail made no difference whatever. Crushed, defiant, free, or in broad arrows, Mr. Slingsby had played his part. Whatever his demerits as a man, Wilfrid Slingsby had made it possible for him to do Mr. Paradine a momentous service. He had made it possible for him to achieve what he had come to London to do. Yes, Uncle Cooley could hardly overlook a service like this. Now, surely, he must, as Mr. Slingsby had suggested, come down handsome. And if he did, why then the last obstacle between himself and Flick was removed. Through a world ringing with joy bells, Bill made his way to Marmont Mansions, and floated airily up the stairs into his sitting-room. There was a letter lying on the table, and the joy bells seemed to ring louder than ever as he recognized Flick's handwriting. He tore it open. The joy bells stopped as if they had been turned off with a switch. He collapsed onto the settee. There was a strange buzzing in his ears. The opposite wall seemed far away and obscured by a mist. At the pit of his stomach was a dull, aching feeling, as though some unseen hand had smitten him with violence. He re-read the letter. There must be some mistake. Mistake! That was what the letter said. Feel we have made a mistake. Sure we should only be unhappy. Marry Roderick on Wednesday. Only thing to do. And for this extraordinary, this ghastly, this unbelievable change of heart she gave no reason whatever. Bill stared before him, and the room grew darker and darker. Chapter 19